So let's get going. Okay. Sherry is there. She's just hiding behind her name, I think. You're there, Sherry?
Oh, there she is, yeah.
I am.
Okay.
However, Cheryl is assigned to run the meeting tonight, so Lucas is going to introduce her.
Was that who Ojai City is?
Yeah, Cheryl Davis is,
No, Cheryl's council chambers. Ojai City is just a camera.
yep.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, it's,
Cheryl Davis.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, and so what do you mean by, Cheryl, what are you doing for us tonight? Nice to see you.
Hi there, nice to see you. I'll be, you can call the roll and I'll be calling each of your names and acting as the secretary for your meeting this evening.
Okay.
she's doing what Sherry usually does, but this is what you can expect Cheryl to be taking over this role now and into the future.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we will get started. If you could call the roll, please, Cheryl.
Chair Akins,
Here.
Commissioner James,
here?
Commissioner McHatton,
Here.
and we have Commissioner Convery, who is absent, and one vacancy.
Yes, great, thank you. So if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Here it comes in the city. Okay, if you'll repeat after me, hand over your heart. I pledge of allegiance
To
the flag
of the United
States of America,
and to the republic
and to the republic
for which it stands,
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under
under
God,
God,
with
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all. I still go back to vacation last fall when we were with all our grandkids, and I was listening to a second grade class doing the Pledge of Allegiance. It was interesting. Okay, do we have any public communications? Cheryl?
We do not have any public communications.
Okay, great, thank you. Museum should I read the public communications, Lucas, or do we move on?
Is there a public communication from the museum, or because you
Well,
usually give
yeah,
them?
there is for that. I have a comment.
Okay.
It's public communications or just an agenda item. So let me read that. I got this from Wendy Barker. Just remind people that the museum is now open Fridays from 1 to 7, Saturday from 10 to 4, and Sunday from 10 to 4. Those hours again were in response to solicitations we got from individuals and surveys we put out asking when was the best time to open in reduced hours. One thing Wendy did want me to point out is the fact that the walking tour of historic downtown Ojai, which was a historic preservation commission initiative done by Elise prior to her leaving, is flying off the shelves.
Wow.
Their museum is having a hard time keeping up. And this is with them. The visitor center is now closed because of staffing and other things. But so they put a cart out in front, and those downtown walking tour brochures are there on the cart, and they are, as I said, flying off the shelves. Current exhibit is Ojai Master Photography. It is excellent. An upcoming exhibit that we expect to gain quite a following and quite a crowd is Flora and Fauna in the Time of Climate Change. And that will be opening in November and is scheduled to run for 4 months. So that's the museum representative report. The next thing we have up is item number 1, consent items, minutes of the March 11th, 2021 regular meeting. Commissioners, did you see any changes?
There was hardly anything on there. So I couldn't find any errors myself.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Gina, did you see any changes we needed to make?
No, I did not.
Okay, could I get a motion then to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
great. Thank you. Cheryl, could you call the roll, please?
Akins,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McHatton.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, now moving to public hearing item number 2. This is a new sign for the Ivy Retail Boutique. Before I do that, I did want to ask if there were any site visits, meaning did you go to 260 East Ojai Avenue by chance? I did today.
I meant to, but I had all these things come up today and I had to go to the post office. So
Okay, great. So we'll turn the time over to Lucas, or is it Maura?
Yeah, let me just open this up and then I'll pass it on to Maura. Tonight's presentation is going to be given by Maura Macaluso. She is a new planner that we have here, part-time associate planner. She comes to us with Fillmore, where she was there for about 3 years as a senior planner. Her experience is vast with the city of Ventura, where she spent roughly 18 years there working in the public works sector as well as the current planning sector as a planner at the planner level. And she's only been with us for about a month. Her start date was April 12th. So with that, I would turn it over to Maura. I think she's got a short presentation here regarding item number 2 on the agenda.
I do, and thank you. It's nice to meet all of you, and it's a privilege to be here and be presenting to you tonight. I'm presenting a sign permit, a request for a sign permit for a new retail boutique that's in the arcade. It's called the Ivy. The tenant space used to be occupied by Love Heels. The proposed sign meets all of the requirements for hanging signs in the arcade. The sign will be hung on the existing chains or by the existing chains at exactly the 96 inches from surface of sidewalk that's required. And the sign is made from wood, has routed lettering. The background is proposed to be hunter green, the lettering ivory white, and we're recommending approval of that sign. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. So, and this came up in the last meeting we did. So the color that's on, that says hunter green.
Yes.
I'm guessing that's the best representation using the color printer we have of hunter green.
you can go to Benjamin Moore and look it up too.
Okay.
Yeah, you always got to remember the prints aren't necessarily going to be 100% accurate. That's why we typically give that the color palette number associated with it. With this one, I think it's Benjamin Moore.
Oh,
With
great.
the number
Yeah,
associated with it.
Excellent. I will remember that in the future. Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for Maura?
Hi, is it, I don't know why I didn't understand, but is it an oval sign or a square sign?
It's an oval sign, and
Okay.
it's 15 by,
Oh, I see that. Yeah, 28.
okay, yes. And
Actually, I think that looks better than the square. Yeah.
I would like to say that I did go by 260 East Ojai Avenue. I was just on mute. So
Oh.
just in case you wanted it for the record.
Okay, Gina, thank you. So no other questions. I just, item of interest, when I was just down there, I don't know, 3 o'clock, carrying my long-haired dachshund because it was a little warmer and no shade to find. So I carried the dachshund up and down the arcade. I I noticed that there were several businesses without signs, 2, 3, something like that. And so Lucas was gonna go take a look. One of them, the burger place, Lucas said it has a sign that's coming down the pike. Is that correct, Lucas?
Yeah, they'll be coming forward in the future. They're just working with us right now on getting necessary materials.
Okay.
And the rug store just has 2 chains hanging with no sign either.
Yeah, we'll go out and take a look at those. I'll go out and take a look at them and report back to the commission.
Yeah, there was one other sign in, I'm not exactly sure how recent it was, but it was just looked like a single piece of wood, a smaller piece of wood that was hanging there and had kind of limited graphics on it.
Okay.
So maybe if you could look at that too. I'm not sure if that came before the HPC. Okay, so any other questions? Any other discussion? Okay, if we could get a motion then approving that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve that sign.
Great.
And I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Gina. Cheryl, could you call the roll, please?
Akins,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McHatton.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, good timing. Before I move any further, even though I had her name, and then when I noticed I had forgot to mention it, I wrote it in bigger letters. We're very happy to have Councilmember Francina with us. Always a pleasure to have you here and have a member of the council represented and listening to us. We think tonight's a little bit funner. Some of the items that we're going to talk about maybe a little bit more interesting. So good night to join us. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Francina. Okay, the next action item is the City of Ojai Centennial activities. And Lucas.
Yeah, before we go to that item, I'm looking for a point of clarification. I think we actually have to go back to the public hearing item. Did we at one point open the public hearing to anybody in the audience
I don't think so.
speak on the item?
No, I probably did that because I didn't see anybody in the audience, but except for Craig, who I know why he's here.
Yeah, but even
you're
so, we need a point of order would require us to do that. So I would ask for us to go back to item 2 and to open public hearing.
Thank you very much.
And then to close public hearing and then to call the vote.
So at this time, we'd like to open item number 2 for a public hearing. Craig?
Yes, well, since you're talking about the city centennial, I would just like.
Oh, we're not there yet.
Not there yet. We're
Oh,
still
I
on
know,
2.
I know where you are. I know where you are. I just want to point out that the Ivy was the city hall of Ojai. So when the city was formed in 1921, it was city hall for the first several years.
And if I remember right, you had an article or have an article that talks
It should be coming out pretty soon, but it's interesting. It's an interesting building. It was the first bank, and they still have the vault there that you can see. And then it was Ojai's first courthouse in the back there. This is where Judge Wilson held court, and the first city hall.
Thank you, Craig. I enjoyed that public comment very much. Any other comments? Okay, so then now we can vote.
Well,
Right.
now let's close public hearing and then we can take it for a vote.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing at this time and entertain a motion to approve the sign as recommended. Yes, we get to all over again.
I'll make a motion to
Thank you.
And I'll
sign as recommended.
Great.
and I will second it.
Thank you. And now we will call the roll. Cheryl?
Akins,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McHatton.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you all. Do we do that right, Lucas?
Yes. Now we can move on. Now I'm not going to lose sleep now.
Okay. Okay, so now we're moving on to item number 2. Item number 3, I mean. City of Ojai Centennial activities. And Lucas, do you have a staff report on this?
I do. So the item itself went forward to city. So there was an item that went forward as a kind of an idea item to city council at the end of April. I believe it was April 27th. That started to stir the ideas and the different ways in which we could celebrate this centennial event that's going to be taking place in August. That has since spurred a lot more discussion since then. And because of that, one of those discussion pieces, and I know Brian, I talked to you about this almost a month ago, about bringing in and getting the Historic Preservation Commission involved in this and kind of brainstorming ideas on how this commission can get involved and activate and be a part of this this historic event that's going to be taking place. So with that, I know there were some ideas that were logged into the staff report itself, but really those were kind of just generic ideas that more than likely are going to be moving forward. I think what we're looking for here from this commission is ideas that are really kind of embedded into the historic fabric of the community and how we can kind of draw that out and celebrate it to a certain degree too.
Okay. Some background on a couple different things. This item actually came before council, and it was first showed up as a consent calendar item. It was in the consent calendar item on the council meeting that was abbreviated because of the Spectrum outage. And so that was the one item of business that they did, that they passed the consent calendar, and it was done without discussion. I see Council Member Francina smiling. That was an interesting night. And so there, James, who I talked to beforehand, was looking forward to the presentation, and of course there was no presentation. It got approved with a consent item. From a standpoint, the museum got together on March 4th, and we're thinking of ideas. We, of course, knew that the centennial was coming up. We had kind of a meeting with, I think, about 6 of us. That committee is headed by Cheryl Laura, who's, of course, a previous mayor and council member, along with a wide variety of people. And basically, it was to throw darts to the dartboard and see what stuck. And we came up with, I think, 15 different ideas. My responsibility in that was to call and talk to City Manager Vega. I called him, and he said actually that he had planned to talk about the centennial activity the very first meeting in February, but after all the bad news that was coming out through COVID, he decided that maybe wasn't the time to bring it up, and so he waited until the later meeting. And when he felt it was now, things were looking better, and it was time, as he put it, to find something to celebrate, we agreed and we moved forward. So there was a joint meeting between the museum and the city manager's office. I believe it's city manager Luis was working on that. Andrea was working on that, and another individual. I was unable to attend that meeting because a zebradillo got in my way. So those activities are going on the planning stage from the city, and Lucas, you pointed recaptured the items that went in that consent item. So thank you. The museum also has some items, and we're working with the city collectively to perhaps narrow down that item. The one thing that wasn't captured in Lucas's recap of that meeting was, if you go to April 27th, it tells you what the rules are for the city seal and how you apply for that. It had a termination or a deadline date, I think, of May 28th. At that time, I don't know if that's, I imagine that's been extended. So in talking with City Manager Vega and talking with Lucas, one of the ideas that came up was doing videos. And so because of the fine job that Gina and her husband had done for the jailhouse snippets that she received from my wife and I asked her if she would help as a part of that effort. And she said she would be happy to. Gina is also, as you all may, or most of you know, is the outlet through Facebook for the Historic Preservation Commission and working with Lucas on what we can share on that. So as Lucas said, I think, are you looking for further ideas, Lucas? Are you looking for participation? I know people are welcome to be involved in the work that the museum is doing. They're always looking for volunteers.
Yeah, I think this is really kind of meant in maybe two different aspects. One is to kind of, the hope is that in reading the agenda item tonight, that the Historic Preservation Commission members have taken an opportunity to kind of brainstorm the impact and how this commission can be involved and be recognized. And certainly within the wheelhouse is the historic nature, the fabric of the community itself. I mean, the museum, I think, would be partnering, or it would make sense to have HPC partner with a museum at some sort of level and bring something forward in recognition of the distinct history that the city of Ojai has. So, and to Chair Aiken's point, Commissioner Manhattan, I know you certainly have quite a bit of knowledge, experience, exposure to videoing. At least that's my understanding with the historic video that was put together for the jail. So it seems appropriate that would be one of the ideas that seems like it could rise to the surface. But I mean, it's meant for discussion tonight. I don't want to necessarily take the floor on this. I'm looking for ideas here for sure.
Yeah. So with that background, then I open it up to discussion.
Well, everything that with everything that I think about with this is going into our next item. So, the Downtown Historic District, having it be the vision of Libby, and it's all going to tie in somehow to the next item in my eyes, is community awareness of our downtown and what it means to protect it. And it does, when you said that the walking tours flying off the shelves there, it would be nice to include something that talked about our downtown district and the areas and the original vision of the city and how it came to be. I think that might be of interest too. And also, I think that a video walking tour of our downtown area, and with a better mic and not such a windy day, but getting
hot, 105.
Yeah, no, not 105, and yes, but being able to walk the tour and talk about what it all means and why it's important and how it's such a unique town that we live in, from the architects that have been a part of it to the visionaries that contributed to it and to how it's grown over the years, and how so I think that this tying into our next item is how I would like to focus on it, is that downtown historic district and how it's already thought of as historic. In fact, most people, if you look at like real estate, if it's anywhere within downtown, the realtors, they'll always say close to the historic downtown, just like it's a given, So, I'd like to work on that in more of an official capacity.
Great. Valerie?
Yes, it looks like then Ojai was established in 1921. And I think they established also the Theosophical Pratona in 19, Craig might know too, 25 or 26. And also, I think the Krishnamurti history and the Pratona history would be definitely, since almost started the same time as the city, an integral part of this history of the city. What do you think, Craig?
Well, definitely, I think that all of those contributed. You're talking about the period of the 20s, because the city was incorporated in 21, and it was kind of the beginning of the modern era in Ojai. Really, there was a lot of development of the infrastructure of the city, and the city really did get to work right away as a they called them the Board of Trustees back then, to try to establish more infrastructure and more protection and more planning for the city. And so I think that whole period of the 20s would be great to draw it in, and the
Yeah.
influence of these different groups that came and how they were influenced by Mr. Libby as well. The Crotona, they hired a Spanish style architects, Robert Stacy Judd, to create those buildings. And so that whole architectural vision of the city was extended by these other groups that came in.
Spanish Revival, I think that's what that is, or just Spanish Colonial, something like that, yeah. Architecture.
And well, another thing, so if there are people that are watching this and they want to be involved, from the city standpoint, I'm not sure how they would volunteer. And from the museum, if they want to be involved in the museum somehow, they could talk to Wendy. Now, part of it, and it's talked about in what Lucas put together, is this is something that's meant to encompass all of the organizations within the city, inviting them to be participative in this, not just any two organizations or entities.
Right.
So
Yeah, this is just one piece to the puzzle, I would say.
it is.
Absolutely.
So if there are entities out there that are watching this that want to be involved, then yes, they should. I don't know who the point person is for the city. I believe it was Luis. Luis is now got another responsibility that he's doing also. So perhaps we can find out who that contact person would be.
They could probably start with me, but the reality is that it's probably going to be through the city manager's office first.
Okay.
Do we
So
have a
either Andrea or James, or starting with Andrea.
I'm sorry, Valerie, yes?
do we have a list of all the organizations, and maybe we could contact some of them to see if they're interested?
So we talked about that in one of the museum committees and talking to Severo the last time. And if we wanted to pay $75, we could get that information. We just felt like maybe we could do it with Google searches and do it cheaper than $75. That's expensive for us. Craig?
Is the July 4th committee going to have a parade this year? Could they be asked?
Oh, they would know, yeah. That would be good.
The theme could be somehow tied back to the city's 100 years.
Yeah, that would be great.
And Ojai Day too. I mean, Ojai Day could focus on that as a theme as well, if you're planning on holding it, which things are looking better.
And probably July 4th, people would know most of the organizations, so we wouldn't have to do a $75 thing.
I know in the COVID update that was in Tuesday night's meeting that City Manager Vega gave, he talked about the July 4th parade, but they were having to wait, I think, until, and Councilwoman Francina can correct me, having to wait until June 15th in order to find out whether that was a go or not. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's my understanding, at least.
Okay, so I think there are people that want to do it, but again, they're, like many other things, kind of on hold until that day.
But for planning purposes, maybe the Independence Day Committee could be contacted earlier rather than later and asked if it is a go, if maybe this would be a great theme for them.
Yeah, that sounds good. And And then if the COVID restrictions are lifted, would there be a possibility of having outdoor events in August for the Centennial Day?
Yes.
There we go.
Okay.
Right.
So can we think of anything we'd like to do? Or does that, I mean,
Valerie, that's a key point because this is a celebration in talking with James that will last for the year, not just kicking off on August 5th. So it's a 12-month event. And again, you know, the city, as City Manager Vega has proposed to the council, and you've seen on the list, are quite a list of items that will create things that will be remembered, from possible coin to a city seal.
Well, we're also looking at doing a time capsule as well.
yeah, so.
And we're going to put GPS location so they can find it 50 years from now.
Yeah, exactly.
If it is going to be August to August, does that mean it would be next year's Ojai Day and next year's 4th of July, or would it be 2021's? Because if we would have the centennial celebration, it would be starting in August, not in September, if we included the 4th of July.
It would start in, yes, this August and go to the next August. And as for the event you're talking about, that would go to the city manager's office.
And they'd have to decide if they wanted it.
That's an interesting point, though. I mean, Commissioner McHatton, that's an interesting point because, you know, having it go for 12 months, it would spill over into the 4th of July celebration for sure.
Yeah, and it would almost be jumping the gun. It could be, you know, doing it before the centennial celebration, but it could be a preamble to it too, as well. I mean, it just depends on what the city decides, but I think either way it could be done, but it's 12 month. We do have time if we needed it to have it be for the following year.
Or like someone said.
Yeah, Councilwoman Francine, do you have any guidance on should I just call up the phone and talk to James, or your thoughts?
Well, I think you shouldn't jump the gun. I think a year is long enough. You don't need to add 2 extra months, or however that, yeah, almost if you started in, well, July the 4th, this year would be an extra month. And also because of the, because we're recovering from, and things are uncertain still with the COVID restrictions, I wouldn't put too much energy into planning for July the 4th. I believe that we still want to avoid crowds. And so, you know, we don't know yet how things will unfold, really. But I think we can plan for a wonderful year-long event.
Great.
My only thought was, is this focus only on the city, or would the Shumash history be part of this? You know, or the conditions around the city, or anything of that nature?
Now, that was something that we talked about when we met in the museum, was to, of course, incorporate that as a part of the celebration of the times. And so, again, excellent idea. I think I'd volunteered to reach out to Julie. We just weren't, we were still in the throwing, as I said, darts against the wall, but that's an excellent suggestion. So.
No, I think it sounds wonderful. I envision a huge picnic in the park, everybody wearing clothes from the 1920s, you know, and just a few old cars, you know, have the downtown core be car free, and encourage people to ride horseback.
Yeah.
There we go. Ann Scanlon is on our committee, and she did reach out to see if we had any 1921 vehicles, you know, out there stuck in the warehouses, but we didn't, unfortunately. But looking, Craig.
Well, I just think tying this together with the next item on your agenda, in researching the events and movement that led up to the incorporation of the city, it became clear that one of the reasons they incorporated was to preserve and protect these gifts that Mr. Libby had given them, and the legacy of the beauty of the town, and to direct the development of the further development of the town to incorporate the ideals that Mr. Libby was trying to do. And they had just right after Libby built the arcade, it burned down. 5 months later, half of it burned down, and they realized they had no fire trucks, and they had no fire department, and there was no city services. And sewers were overflowing, not the sewers, but the cesspools and the outhouses, and things smelled pretty bad. And so they started investigating the idea of creating or of incorporating and having a city that the local people could manage their own future. And that was in the paper leading up to the election on incorporation. Walter Bristol, who was the principal of the high school, who was the secretary of the men's league, that was their quasi government, I guess you'd call it at the time. He said one of the reasons we need to do this is we need to step up. We've had all these wonderful things given to us, and we need to step up and take control of our own destiny, and establish a city where things can be done professionally, not just hit or miss. And so I think that this would be a great opportunity to honor that legacy, to at least nominate the downtown historic district. I know that's a process, and it can't be done quickly, but if the council is amenable, I think it would be a great synchronizing of those two things to at least nominate it in honor of the centennial.
Great, thank you, Craig. Craig's giving us a little bit of a peek in the next item. A little teaser. Thank you. Yes, Councilwoman Francina, please.
Can you involve the schools and have them take this period of time to really teach the history of Ojai? And you know, we could, I think it would be really interesting to involve the schools, and I think they'd like it. Maybe you've already thought of that, but and that way the parents get involved and become aware, and have them read Patricia Fry's, all my books here. I always think that you know, the history of Ojai should be mandatory for everybody that lives here. Here's my.
So in response to what you're just saying, I think that idea came up both independently from the city manager's office in talking to James in wanting to push that out to the schools that are here locally. I know it also was mentioned by in the museum, because of course we have retired teachers. So I think that's an excellent idea that needs to be pursued.
May I say something?
Yeah.
Susan, just when we bought our home 17 years ago, that book was left behind for us by the previous owners.
Great.
So I think that is definitely something that started my love for this city, was learning so much about it right from that book, right from the start. But one of the things that I had spoke about a long time ago that I kind of had in my head was to have maybe the Arts Commission and the Historic Commission come together and do some sort of a thing where we ask students to kind of show what they see the downtown Ojai means to them, whether it's showing it the history and just having some sort of a display maybe in City Hall of the ones that we've chose as, you know, however it wanted to be, whether it was digital or whether it was in clay or painting or drawing or words, and just letting our students express what this town means to them and kind of doing it as a joint commission project. I thought that would be a really nice way to get the kids interested in the history and the involvement. Even they could maybe do the downtown area in whatever they wanted to, from anything from paper mache to Minecraft. You know, it could, however they see the downtown and just have that out there for the students.
Great. Thank you, Gina. Excellent ideas. Any other thoughts that we're missing? Yes, Valerie.
Just because we were founded in 1921, I know we have a whole year, but I wonder if we could combine it with Ojai Day, so it would be celebrating the same year, or is that too soon, Francina? What do you think?
I think it should be definitely part of Ojai Day in some way.
Mhm.
And as I understand it, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Ojai Day this year is kind of being guided towards more local participation, local vendors, street not being closed, in the park. Does that sound, do I have that somewhat correct there, Councilwoman Francina?
Did you say the street won't be closed?
That's what I had heard.
Oh, I'll have to investigate that as part. It's so wonderful to walk between the arcade and the park. That's how it should be. If this was Europe, that's how it would be.
True.
It would be a pedestrian zone.
Okay.
So I have to look into that. Maybe there was a problem with Caltrans or something. But if you want my perspective, I think it should always just be local and go back to it being small. I have not liked the commercialization of it. I want it to go back to being truly unique and reflect what Ojai is.
Supporting our local economy too.
Yeah, and no trash, and have all the green standards woven into it, and all of that.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
One thing. I've been following the Ojai Unified School District, the new farmers market on Thursday nights that they were going to do. And they've been on Instagram, they've been promoting all the different local vendors and doing a little thing about them and linking to them and showing little pictures. And it does get your excitement up. I think that might be good for Ojai Day if we do something more local. If you start talking about the vendors that are going to be there on Facebook or on Instagram first, so you get an idea that this really is our local people being part of a local celebration.
Yeah, sounds good.
I guess we all agree on that then.
So I'm writing notes down as fast as I can. Lucas, anything we may have missed, or?
No, this was meant to be an open discussion. That's exactly what I've seen tonight. Some really good ideas, and we'll be taking those back. Brian, I'll talk to you offline, and we'll probably work with City Manager's office to see what sticks, and probably maybe even come back to this commission and talk it through a second time, and what's going to maybe hit the ground running. I'm not sure yet. It's just kind of a work in progress here. So
it is.
Appreciate the time.
Well, thank you, everyone. And again, thank you, Councilwoman Francina. It's nice to have that portal into what's going on with the City Council. Okay, we will then move to the next item. Item number 4, I believe. Lucas, do you have anything that you want to talk about on this part?
This is the Downtown Historic Ad Hoc Committee's progress report. So for this one, I would just say that Commissioner McCatton, I believe you have a report or an update, as well as Chair Akins, on the progress of this. I know we had put this on the agenda because there was some information to pass along and some progress to update this commission on as well.
Yes. So at this time, then, I would like to turn it, and this is part of the big reason Craig joined us. He and Gina have been doing amazing work in putting this together. Thank you, Gina. The minutia. I want to tell you that after I walked through the arcade, I went over and walked around Barbara Bowman buildings and held my camera up as high as I could, taking pictures, and walked around the gate on the back of that property and zoomed in, taking pictures. This is putting this together with these two has been kind of a what is that building? Oh, let's go find out. So, Gina, I'll turn it over to you.
So Lucas, can you bring up the map?
Yeah, I can share my screen here. All right, can you see it?
Yeah, can you go up a little bit? Or yeah, there we go. Or down a little
Here,
bit.
I can make it. Let's see if I can make it larger. Is that helpful?
There we go. That gets the idea. It's just, it's that little nipple on the top of the lion on Lion Street that we, if we just acknowledge that's the original library. It was the Thatcher built library there. It was the Boy Scouts, then it was the Girl Scouts, and now it's just kind of sitting there. So knowing that, we can kind of scoop the map up now that we acknowledge the little nipple on the top. Now just, can you pull it out? There we go. Okay. So this is our map of our proposed downtown historic district. What we wanted to acknowledge was, given the budgetary restraints of this unprecedented COVID year, we wanted to proceed with the idea of presenting a downtown historic district, especially during our centennial, but without adding a lot of man hours or money from the city, as that's just not a possibility right now. So what we decided to do was to look at our already landmarked buildings, which are in orange. One that's left off is the bottom left-hand corner is City Hall. We just felt like we would have so much non-contributing in between City Hall and the other buildings that unless we wanted to, I looked at a lot of other cities that did downtown historic districts, and there are some little, like, we could gerrymander and zip that in there, but just assuming we don't, it's anchored by all of our current landmarks, which is in the downtown historic district in orange. Those would then, of course, have not only already landmarked, but they would already have reports done. They've already have tons of information to have them included into a district. And then the yellow, which are the orange, it starts with A's, the yellows are B's. Those are historic and contributing. We feel that they are all historic structures, that they're all well known to be steeped in Ojai history. First, either by reports done by us or the property owners or even the city of Ventura, or by research done by, like in that book that we keep talking about, the Ojai History book by Patricia Fry, or on the Ojai History website, which gathers historical articles and interviews with original Ojai old timers. And so those that are in yellow, we feel really confident there's enough information to include them as contributing to the time, the 1874 to 1950s, the feel, the original vision of Libby of what the downtown historic core is. And then the gray buildings are in the area, but they're non-contributing. Some of them recently non-contributing, like we really trying to do this in the most frugal way, even if there's something that we believe might be something because somebody heard something somewhere, but if we couldn't justify it enough, like the Bliss and Susan Cummings gallery, it's like we sure that it has some history of maybe what was there before, what's there now, but it wasn't enough documentation to warrant not having to put money into discovery. So at least for our purposes, it is a non-contributing structure. So what leaves us here is what's considered contributing and already landmarked, which gives us a really good idea of the original vision of Libby, of the town city beautification makeover, anyway, that's kind of where we're at here. Can we go to the other document, the spreadsheet?
Yeah, hold on one second. Stop.
Okay. Yeah, while Lucas is doing that, just keep in mind the arcade part. Maybe you could talk about those slices too, right at the arcade, as we're going over to the spreadsheet where you're going to explain what those are.
So what we wanted to do was stick with the maps that the city was using for other purposes, for their overlays and that, so we're all speaking the same language. So when you do that, not all of those little buildings necessarily line up with the storefronts. Some of them might have 2 storefronts or none. It's very strange because it's old, it's been around for a long time. So if this is our landmark building, so if you look at this, it starts with it's numbered from A on down. It's the address, it's the current use, the original use, the historic period, the original contribution or the historic contribution, and then the information that we have on it. And for these, it's always going to be our the reports that were done, whether they were local or county or national. So can you go down further to the contributing?
Just as a question, Ojai Landmark HRR is Ojai Landmark Historic Resources Report?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. And there's one that doesn't work. The jail isn't linking right now, but I think Cheryl is going to fix that. So
yeah, sure.
But they're all in there except for that one. That one still doesn't link. So if you scroll on down, so all these coincide with the map. And then these are the contributing. So this it's numbered starting with the B's, and these are all, it tells you, once again, the address, the current use, the original use, the period, its contribution, and the documentation that we're using. And so you could see the same thing that we are using all the information, old articles, newspapers, stuff we're getting from the museums, from the old reports, websites, the history books, historians, or just, we didn't list it all because we realized that when we started listing it all, it made each column so fat that it just, so this was just the some of the information. But these all have enough information that we feel confident that they would all be contributing to Ojai history in our area of interest, which is 1874 to 1955. So if you scroll down, keep going. And I just want to get to the arcade store. You see how it says just arcade store, see below? So these are going by the map that I copied from the different, I received several different maps from the city, and they all had this same sort of number of blocks. So when we numbered it, I followed that. But then if you go all the way down to the bottom, you scroll all the way down, it will list the actual stores that are a little bit further down. And those will list the actual stores that are currently in there as of May 2021. So that's just, I just wouldn't want to be confusing, because if you start counting how many of those little yellow boxes there are versus how many storefronts, it's not going to have the same information. So in order to be talking be on the same maps as the city, we wanted to keep it as the city does it. What our goal is somehow in this year of our centennial is we'd like to have a really tight timeline and coincide with the centennial, and hopefully that'll be a catalyst to get us our joint council meeting as quickly as we can. I know that we're first up as far as I think I heard from Brian. Also to have our next meeting be a public forum, just to get interest from the public, see how they're feeling about it, and answer any questions. And then followed by the following meeting, assuming that we're all on board, doing a recommendation to city council for this to be landmarked. There is, let's see, the things that might come up are, one thing that the reason why we really stuck on this. Now I know that once everybody talks and everyone gets involved, this might not be the permanent map. There may be something taken away or added or however we want to do it. But these landmarks already have their set of rules to follow. And the historic contributing buildings are all part of an overlay that are already set, rules that are set and followed by zoning and regulations. And then, and many of those would come before the HPC anyway. And then the non-contributing, it's, they're already bound also just by their location to zoning and regulations with the overlays as well. I'm sure if somebody tried to build a 3-story building with neon lights, they're going to come to planning way before they ever, had to talk to us about anything. So what we are trying to do is put as little financial money and onto the city to do this. We're trying to put very little restrictions upon any new restrictions that aren't already in place onto property owners. But we just want to start looking at this like we should be looking at it, like the original vision from Libby is as one piece, one unit, one city, not an individual building, but how does it all fit together and tell our story? And so as far as the non-contributing, all that gray property, it wouldn't be trying to get them to suddenly become historic or something. It would just be more like, line of sight from the street that it wouldn't, it's more not in terms of architecture, but more size and scope. We're just keeping it into the look of downtown, but not really adding much on it other than, 90% of the people or the properties that would come to us, if they ever did want to change something, would be fine. It's just trying to keep it all into that downtown original look that that Libby had in mind with the town beautification of 1921. Craig, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, after I talked to you this afternoon, I looked at the city of Glendale because I remember when I went to some of the workshops that the city sent us to, that we went actually to the city of Glendale and heard from Jay Platt, who's their planner for historic preservation. And I went to their website and they have a really good description of their non-contributing, and the regulations on those buildings are very minimal. First of all, they don't require the owner to do anything to the property. The building that's the Wells Fargo Bank wouldn't suddenly have to put stucco on the front and look like Mission Revival. It stays the way it is. But they just have general guidelines, which I believe are probably already in place. For example, the massing of the building and how the building faces, just so that any new development of the area or any new construction would fit in with the historic nature of the downtown. But then, like you say, the buildings that are contributing are all ones that would probably be reviewed by the commission anyway, because CEQA would ask that they be looked at to see if there was an impact on their historic character. And then, of course, there's so many of the buildings down there are landmarks, and even the pergola, which isn't historic, it's a rebuilding of the pergola, but it's from the same plans. It would be contributing simply because it's the same architecture and it's just built from the same plans as the original one. So I think it could be done with a minimal of impact on on the property owners, any additional impact, but it would give the downtown a certain status that I think that people would enjoy. I mean, to be part of a historic district or to have a historic property, I think you don't have to look any further than Ojai to see that the property values of our historic buildings are amongst the highest in the city, and they're usually well taken care of because property owners recognize the historic value, and so they want to put their resources into it. So I think it would be a win-win for everyone to do that, and it would certainly be an honor for Mr. Libby, and it would really help to establish this unity, as you spoke of the downtown, and call attention to our wonderful history.
Great, thank you both. Other comments, Valerie?
Yeah, I think that Craig stated it really well. I couldn't really do better.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman Francina, did you want to add anything? You're muted.
Yeah, you're.
No, I have nothing new to add. I just love learning more history, and I always learn something new. I forgot that the arcade burned down 6 months after it was built. That just is, that's like an anecdote that catches your attention. And then the realization that they didn't have a fire, then you can start to feel how a city is formed, everything that went into it. Just, yeah. That's not really quite what you asked me, but it's what was in my mind still. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Coming to listen to the stories at the HPC is why, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, I started showing up just so I could hear David Mason telling stories, and then Craig Walker telling stories, and Terry Hill telling stories, and that's why I'm still here. So
yeah, same with me. That's why I started showing up to every meeting for about a year before I was on the commission. Just it was just so fascinating.
Yeah.
So so as Gina mentioned, we had we brought this up actually in our joint meeting a couple years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago. We were hoping to get some clarification from council in a joint meeting a year ago. The meeting we were going to have was postponed till the next month, and sure enough, COVID hit the week before we were going to have that meeting. So that's why we're feeling like we're maybe first in line for the next joint meeting. Sorry, Steve. Chair Quillisi. So I think the next steps are in trying to get a joint meeting with council to share this presentation, this information with them, and answer any questions and seek guidance, further guidance from them. Once we have that, based on what comes from that, then we would further meet and continue our efforts in coming up with a recommendation to council. Then it would go on the, again, these are all in the hope that things move forward affirmatively. Then it would go on the council agenda for a public hearing, and subsequent that it would go to the be a council vote and discussion. So I think those are the steps ahead for us. Yes, Gina.
I would like to say that when we did meet with council and our joint council, and we brought this up the last time, it was a very different climate. It was before COVID, and it was before we really started thinking about it in more of a frugal way. I think at the time we were like $50,000 and this, and we're going to do all these reports, and we're going to do this. And I mean, and you could see their faces. I mean, even if something that you want to do, I mean, logically speaking, most people would want to make this official. I mean, it's come so close to, like I said, it's official in every way except being official that this is a downtown historic area. But I think that this presentation that we'll be presenting this time comes from a place of how can we do this without much of a fiscal impact, and using the information that we've already gathered. So hopefully any reservations that came from a financial point will be alleviated, and it'll focus more on whether or not we want a downtown historic district.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, as we've talked on the ad hoc committee, the HBC makes a whatever recommendation of the council, and then it goes from there and depends on them on how far they want to take that recommendation in, deciding amongst themselves, as well as a public hearing and getting that input from others. But I remember making that recommendation several years ago. I think it was $30,000, $15,000 one year and $15,000 the following year. That was an amount that was come up with the HPC again 2, 3, 4 years ago. Much of that work that we anticipated in being spent as far as history, the basis and the history, has been done by Gina and Craig. You've seen that both in the map as well as in the spreadsheet with the detailed information. So, yes.
How much time do you need to do a proper presentation?
To the council?
Yeah.
No longer than it just took to do that item.
So you're, in case the joint meeting doesn't happen soon enough, is there any point to me advocating that you get to do a presentation? Or am I understanding if that's, no, it's probably too complicated.
Well,
You'd want to make a decision. Yeah, not just a presentation.
We want to know that we have council buy-in. We want to know that, that we have your support. We left thinking that we did last time. It seemed like emotionally we had your support, but fiscally, I'm not sure if we did. So I would like to know that we have it both ways. And I think the best way to have that is in a joint council meeting, if that can possibly happen.
Yeah, I think so. And I agree that it should happen during this centennial year for sure. That's just so appropriate. I like when you said it's official in every way, except that it's not yet official. I have to grapple. Is it really not official yet? But because it feels official.
Yes, I remember that discussion with you going, what do you mean? It's official, or it's a downtown historic district? No, it's not. Yes, it is. I grew up here. It's historic. I love that. Craig, did you have some comments?
Well, I was just going to say, as you remember from the Terramina project, there does need to be a vote taken of the property owners, and they have to have 50% plus one, I think, support it. So there would be some education of the people of Ojai and the people who own property in that area too. But it would be great to just start it off with a nomination during this period and get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
One thing that is different, and Craig was on the committee, I was on that committee, is we, in the municipal code, we redefined the voting. Basically one parcel, one vote, as opposed to a parcel owned by a husband and wife jointly generated 2 votes.
I remember all that. I remember it.
Yeah, so we, to me, it now makes more logic. But again, to answer your question, Councilwoman Francina, we are sensitive to what our position is as a commission making recommendations to the council. So in that, we are hesitant to get over our skis and get ahead of where we think that we're doing more than we should and encumbering staff with more than we should without having the buy-in or the acceptance or the go-ahead by the city council. So I believe our feeling is that that's why we were asking for a joint meeting, so that we could get that buy-in by saying we don't need a joint meeting, I think, and we'd go straight to council. I think we're just hesitant about what cutting that step might be. Would we do we want to sit around and wait for a joint meeting in another year or two or another season?
No.
Yeah, we're not. We're patient, but we, like many people, would like to see a downtown historic district.
Well, the good thing is that if things open up on June 15th and we go back to in-person meetings, it'll be a lot better to have this joint meeting in person, if at all possible.
Yes, yes.
So wait till June 15th to decide that, probably, to see if it opens up. Yeah.
Well,
So
Otherwise,
I'm gonna ask what James's plan, how it looks. I mean, there's no need, we can wait to schedule it. I mean, we can schedule it even if we don't have it.
Right.
We can have it.
As soon as, yeah, I'd love it to be on the schedule. I just want to make sure that we follow protocol, and I don't want to have our joint council before we have a public forum, because I don't want to put the cart in front of the horses here, and I don't want to upset anybody and start off on the wrong foot. I think it's sensitive because you're involving so many people and so many property owners that we need to do this right, but we also want to do it quick because of the centennial. So it's just finding that balance of working together and making sure that we're all working for the same goal here.
May I ask one more question?
Of course.
Have you involved Jamie and the chamber? Is he aware of all this?
We have not involved anyone outside of our ad hoc committee, other than pulsing people for information. We've done a survey of what historical information is available within the archives at the museum. Gina has gently, without raising hackles, walked around the arcade, hidden her "I'm an HPC member" sign underneath her coat. And Craig, of course, is a walking encyclopedia. And so he himself has gone and looked into all of that he's done. But going outside of that, we haven't yet, because again, we're just hesitant to move outside our commission without talking with the council.
Okay.
And there's social media and a trifold I'm just dying to do.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it yet.
Okay. I'm getting the lay of the land.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Craig.
Well, I was just wondering if it might not be possible to kind of pick up on this thing that Gina talked about not really having many more requirements that are already there, so maybe it would be good to have a conversation that would include Lucas, where maybe we could find out, well, what is already there, and is that enough, and what additional requirements would there be for the people within the district? Because I'd hate to put it out there and have people envision some big regulatory thing that they immediately resist when maybe that isn't even really called for. I mean, there probably would be realistically some, but it would probably be pretty moderate. But anyway, maybe there could be a conversation that we could find out, well, what's already there and what else would we need?
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely open to that conversation and having whether it's a Zoom meeting or in person. I'm okay either way. We could schedule that off independent of the commission.
Great. Maybe your ad hoc committee can meet with you. Thank you, Craig. Okay, anything else? Then we will close discussion on current item. Move on to item number 5. Lucas, what do we have on item number 5? Lucas, you're muted.
Sorry, I was trying to pull up my agenda at the same time here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so what we have here now is future agendas. And looking ahead, we will be having a June 10th meeting on Thursday, June 10th. Looks like we do have an item. It's 1105 North Signal Street, landmark nomination designation application, and then obviously that's a recommendation to City Council. That item we've been working with that applicant for several months. and have finally gotten the necessary information for us to move forward and to treat that application as complete and ready for the commission. So we'll be putting together an agenda report. It will be a public hearing as these landmarks are required. And it will be a recommendation to City Council. So you can expect that item. There's other items that are out there, but we don't have completions for them, so I can't necessarily set them for hearings yet. So, but just know that there's other items. Even though July, August, and September are showing blank, there's items out there that we're working to get them to completion for this commission to hear.
Yes,
I
Steve.
have a question. So that property on Signal, can you see it from the street? Because I know that you had listed a couple of properties for us to go by if we had time, and I believe that was one of them, but I couldn't see it. Am I looking at something wrong?
I think the one on Signal, I think that one's tucked in the back, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
So
I didn't want to be climbing over stuff. So.
if you're interested in doing a tour, I think we can reach out to those individuals, the homeowners, and see if they're open and receptive to each of the individual commissioners going out and doing some sort of a tour.
Okay.
So that you can get a lay of the land.
Oh, yeah, it is set back.
I think we did something like that for 410 Tico, if I recall correctly, where
Yeah, we did.
the property owner was open to doing those in person. And actually, some of them were actually Zoom meetings, if I recall correctly, because we were in the midst of COVID.
Mhm.
So,
Right. Mine was Zoom.
yeah, Zoom. There we go. Yeah. So we can reach out to them and circle back and schedule some and see if we can't schedule something there. I'm pretty sure they're going to be open to it, but I just need to confirm with them.
Great, let us know.
Yeah, they're set quite far back from Signal.
Yeah, it's tucked back there.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'm always up for going and seeing other people's nice homes
it's
and historic property.
it's a unique one too. I can't speak specifically on it yet, but it's a unique home, and I think, well, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Okay. Anything else for future agenda items that we need to bring up?
Not at this point. That's the one that we're seeing. There could be another item, but I didn't want to put it on until we had confirmation that we had everything complete for it.
Okay. Valerie, Gina, anything else that we need to? Yes.
I'd like to say something. So Craig mentioned about the taking the Glendale class that was with Jay Platt and then the Glendale Historic Preservation. He's talking about these classes at USC that the city had helped us go to in the past. It was kind of it seemed like a last minute thing because it was an email that I just got about a week ago, but they are having those classes again through Zoom. And I don't know if any of the commissioners are interested in going. They're $140 per class, but they are just a wealth of information. I feel like just going to the same one again. I went to 3 last time. I think it was 1 that the city paid and 2 that I did for Mother's Day. It was like, this is what I want for Mother's Day, because it was just so much information. It starts on Monday the 17th and it runs every day for 2 weeks, and they're all on Zoom, and they go so fast and just throw so much at you, but it's just so in line with what we're doing here that if anybody felt like investing into their knowledge, I mean, it would be out of your pocket, but just letting people know that it's available. I know that this year it wasn't in our budget, but if anybody was interested, that it is available through the USC School of Architecture site.
Great,
yeah, I did that before I drove all the way down there, but I would like to do one on Zoom, maybe one that I'm interested in. I'll have to take a look at it.
So getting that information to us, I believe that should be forwarded to, should it go to Cheryl and then to us, Lucas?
Send that
There's going to be at least 3 of us that are interested.
Yep. Send that to Cheryl and she'll distribute.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the safe way. I learned that in the ethics.
That is the safe way.
Just a couple of weeks ago, taught by Matt.
I think that's what I'll do after this. I'll watch that while it's fresh in my head because I wasn't here during it, and I know I have a link to watch it, so I will do that
Oh,
this
okay.
evening.
Yeah, Matt did a great job. Okay, any other items to bring up? Lucas, anything else we need to do, talk about?
No, I think we've
Councilwoman
covered
Francina,
everything.
anything else you would like to share with us?
I wrote down children's book, How the City of Ojai Was Built, because I think any kid would like, just real simple and with pictures. We have all these artists, and then we show the art. All the people are all excited. They have the arcade build, birds down. The city realizes they don't have a fire department. I mean, kids take everything for granted, and let's, put in there, the whole concept of building a city from scratch. It's an amazing concept.
I love that idea. I'll be talking, I think Craig already left. I'll be talking to Craig about that. That is a fantastic idea. He did a class on Ojai history for our charter school this year. And I sat next to my daughter and watched it. It was, I learned, I mean, I'm on the commission and I learned so much. It's just, and he simplified it in a way where, you can just understand it so easily. It was just really well done. Also, there was another city that I saw got a grant, and I reached out to them and they didn't get back to me. I'm going to try to reach out to them again. They got a grant to make a coloring book of their landmark structures. They're like an adult color, or more of a, not really adult, but I mean, more of an intricate one. But I thought we had so many artists in this community. If each one, we commissioned them to do a drawing of a landmark building and then created it into a coloring book. If we got a grant to do that, that would be really nice. So I will look into that again and see if I could find out where there's all that grant money out there. We got to find it. So we'll see if I can find anything about it.
Are you all familiar with this book, Badger Cloth? I read that as when I was in my younger years, and I knew the teacher that wrote it. And this is a new edition. I have the original edition too. And now I'm reading it to my grandkids and they love it. It tells them something, it's such an important piece of Ojai, the Chumash heritage.
Yeah.
So all of it is just, I have no idea what they're teaching in the schools these days, but it's a nice conversation that, hopefully they're teaching the history of Ojai along with everything else. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I do have some idea of what they're teaching because the schools have evolved. Now that I have grandchildren, and the way the schools have evolved is amazing. It's wonderful what's happening in all the schools of Ojai, I've learned.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Excellent suggestion, and very timely, I think, with this upcoming year coming up about.
Yeah.
Okay. Maura, thank you for joining us. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, Maura, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Meeting all of you.
And Cheryl, thank you for joining us. And Sherry, thank you for everything you've done for us. So anyway, David's gavel, we're done. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
See you next
Thank you.
time.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, Valerie.
Bye-bye, Susan. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.